Good morning everyone, my name is Michelle, I hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video. It's Sunday morning, it's cold. The weather app says it's 5 degrees C, but it feels colder than that. It's probably almost time to wear a coat instead of just the t-shirt and the hoodie that I always wear. But hey, today, cold or not, is another 2 video day. This video on Megan Boswell will come out first on Michelle Walks, and then later on today there will be a Kylie Rodney video over on MichelleAfterDark. So Megan Boswell, the hearing that took place on Friday, September 23rd, just rocked me. The details of how Evelyn died, the 15-month-old daughter of Megan, how she died is just horrific. The details are far more disturbing, far more grim than I ever imagined they would be. And I can understand why that information has been sealed up to now. You know, Megan's been sitting in jail since March 2020. Evelyn was last seen in December of 2019. And then her grandfather, Tommy Boswell, that's Megan's dad, reported Evelyn missing in February. The Amber Alert went out on the 19th of February 2020. It took a couple of weeks of Megan telling lie after lie after lie. She didn't seem upset at all when she was interviewed by WJHL, the local news station there. And it's so close to Summer Wells, it's about 35-40 minutes from where Evelyn was found to 110 Ben Hill Road. So I think a lot of people following Summer's case have looked at this case as well. It's easy to think that there could be a connection somewhere along the line, especially as Don Sherford Jr, who is one of my suspects in the Summer Wells case, lives on the same road. The road is long, several miles long, it's about 4 miles long, Muddy Creek Road. I think the Muddy Creek Road address is Don Sherford Jr.'s mother's address. Because Don Sherford Sr., when he's not staying at his girlfriend's house very close to the Wells on Simpson Road, his property is on Reservoir Road, which is close to where Jodie Sue is currently living. So you can see that it's easy to think that there could be a connection. I don't think there is. The circumstances of how both kids disappeared, how Evelyn was found, and just Megan's demeanour. When she was arrested initially for lying to the police, I thought they got the right person right back then. And this was well before the Summer Wells case. It was over a year before the Summer Wells case. Megan's been sitting in jail all that time because there's been numerous hearings, but you know, there's been continuances. There's a backlog in the system due to COVID, and her trial it was originally set for September, so this month, but it's been pushed back to February next year due to a variety of circumstances. And the Judge Goodwin, made that exact point on Friday when Megan requested another lawyer because she apparently has fallen out with Brad Scholes. Differences of opinion, we don't know exactly what, but if I had to guess, I'd guess that Brad Scholes, given the information, given the brutality of how Evelyn died, I would imagine that her lawyer would be advising her to accept some kind of, plea deal or something. Whether that's even an option in Megan's case, given that how horrific this is. I don't know, I'm just speculating, but Brad Scholes was interviewed by WJHL, and he just said, the photos are disturbing. They're disturbing, it's upsetting. Megan was crying when she came back into the court after a recess. She was visibly upset. But yeah, that's what you did, Megan. And I know everybody is innocent till proven guilty. I get that. She's not been convicted yet in a court of law, but I think she will be. Unless this is another Casey Anthony, but I don't know. She's not got, what's his face, Jose Bias in her corner. Maybe that's what Megan's expecting of her lawyer, but I do think in the Boswell case they have the right person. Innocent till proven guilty. We're just assuming here that she's guilty. It beggars belief what was in Megan's mind. You know what I thought? I thought, this is a young woman. She was only 17 when she had Evelyn. I don't know, maybe she didn't get a lot of support from her family. Now there's issues with her mother, which are quite strange. I'm going to have to look far more into Megan Boswell's past to try to work this out. It's absolutely unfathomable how an 18-year-old woman, just 18 when Evelyn was murdered, could do that to a 15-month-old child. Look, I worked for over 20 years in the field of psychology, a PhD in psychology. I changed career paths, but I've still got that knowledge. And one of my specialisms was forensic psychology. People can be horrific, people can be evil. Some people can't be rehabilitated, although there's methods by which psychologists can try. Some people are just beyond help. And an 18-year-old woman, I don't want to think about someone that young being beyond help. She clearly has an emotional reaction, but is that emotional reaction for her or is it for her daughter? I don't know. I thought that she snapped. The last story she gave was that Evelyn died when either her or her boyfriend rolled over on her. It's a realistic story, that has happened, but no, I didn't think that was true. I thought Megan had snapped. I thought that Evelyn, 15 months old, they're a little handful, aren't they? They're a little cute ball of energy, kind of like Cassie, really, aren't they? And you could lose your temper. Lose your temper if you're having to deal with that kid on your own and you're at the end of your rope and maybe you don't want to ask for help or you think you can't ask for help and you just snap. And she lashed out. I thought it was something like she lashed out, Evelyn banged her head on something, or she hit her too hard, or she shook her. There's such a thing as shaken baby syndrome. She shook her and she died. I was thinking along those lines initially, but as information has trickled out, and then the bombshell from Friday, that clearly wasn't the case. Because according to the forensic pathologist, Evelyn was alive when she was put into that trash can. It was a very deliberate act. It was a thought out act. This wasn't somebody lashing out. This was pure anger, almost to the stage of sadism. The snapping, which is wrong, but, they immediately regret it. It's still wrong. You can't turn the clock back. If you shook your baby so hard that they got a brain injury and died, you can't take that back. But you can be incredibly remorseful. Wrapping her in aluminium foil, we call it aluminium in the UK, but wrapping her in foil, that is bizarre. What was that for? Wrapping her in a blanket, a fleece blanket, and suffocating her is one thing. But wrapping her in foil, was that to hide the smell of death? To keep the decomposition in? Would Megan have that kind of knowledge? Why the foil? That is weird. And then the way she was dumped in the trash can with this foil and blanket wrapped round her, tightly round her, so tightly that when she was found, her facial features had been completely flattened. I mean, it's just horrendous. And she was just thrown in a trash can, upside down. I can hardly talk about it. It's just horrific. Her head was bent back, like hyperextended backwards. So her head was like on her back. That little girl must have gone through hell in her final moments. I hope she died quickly. I really do. But, God, man, that is very deliberate. Almost the point of sadism in my opinion. In my opinion, that was so. I'm not saying she planned it for weeks, But what possessed her? What possessed her to wrap her baby in a blanket and then foil and just throwing her in the trash? What possessed her? There's so many people out there who want children who can't have children. You know, and I'd appeal to anybody, young or not so young, if you're struggling with your child, if you're struggling with your baby, there are people out there who can help. And if you don't want your baby, right, not everybody is a natural mother. If you don't want your baby, just think on that there are so many people who do, who can't have kids, or who have had kids and maybe you've got to, you know, an age where they can't have more kids naturally, but they'd like to help, they'd like to foster, they'd like to adopt. There's families out there all over the world who would welcome a 15-month-old little baby girl like Evelyn. Before you get to that point, if you, in your heart of hearts, don't want your baby, if you can't cope anymore, if you feel that you're going to snap and you don't have family support or the kind of support around you that you need, ring social services or CPS or whatever you call it. Ring social services and give up that child. Give up that child and give them the chance of being adopted in a family that will love them. Don't get to a point where your only option is murder. Don't get to a point. Let little Evelyn's death mean something. Let it mean something as a warning to everybody out there that if you know you can't cope and you don't want your baby, don't do that. Don't take your baby's life. Don't wreck your own life. You know, it's likely Megan's going to spend the rest of her life in prison. I hope so. But don't do that. Don't do that. It might be the hardest thing you've ever done, ringing up social services or CPS. It might be the hardest thing you've ever done, the hardest phone call you've ever made. But surely that's not as hard as being on trial for murder. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there, but I'm going to dig into Megan's past a little bit because I want to understand, right? Look, I want to understand why she did that. What was it? What put that in her head? I want to understand. All right, guys, goodbye for now. I'm going to turn the camera off and turn it back on again to talk about Kylie Rodney. Goodbye from Miss Tillington and Miss Cassie Springer. No, I'm not interested today. I'll see you very soon. Bye, guys.